Good evening, and thank you a lot that you answered to make an interview with you. First question, why have you decided to translate your book on Serbian and to present it here in Belgrade?
The question is important, and I'm happy that you ask it. I believe that my book is important for this region of the world where Islam and Orthodox Christianity are living side by side. The only way we can erase the 600 years of bitterness between the two communities is if they can both be taken to the truth which has come from the Lord God. That truth is in the scriptures, the revealed scriptures. So my book is a humble, small contribution to take the Christian to the Quran, that he might be able to understand the Quran better than he did before, and hopefully that at the end of it he will adopt a more positive attitude towards the Quran and towards the Prophet Muhammad. Allah's blessings be upon him. If that happens, if we succeed in that effort, and the Orthodox Christian world adopts a more positive attitude, as I have described, it must necessarily impact on the consciousness of the Muslims of this region, but hopefully that they will reciprocate.
You say about Orthodox Christians. What vision you have about the Catholics who also live here on Balkans?
I know very little. I know very little about the relationship between the non-Orthodox Christians and the Orthodox Christians in the Balkans. What I do know is that there is bitterness and hatred and hostility between the faiths. And I do not know that I can intervene in that matter. I'm restricting therefore my intervention to those Christians who are outside of the Zionist embrace, those Christians who are being faithful to the religion which came with Jesus, and in which, for example, a man cannot marry another man and get a marriage certificate. It is with those Christians that I believe that the world of Islam has a chance of drawing closer and forming friendship and eventually an alliance.
When you speak about this kind of unity between Orthodox Christians and Muslims, do you mean first of all maybe the system of value or some geopolitical ideas and purposes?
No, I mean that first of all you have greater understanding of each other, and that greater understanding leads to more respect for each other, that the Orthodox Christian adopts a more positive attitude towards the Quran and towards the Prophet than perhaps he's ever done in the past. This, I believe, is possible. I have been received in Belgrade with affection, with grace, with dignity, with friendship, and I have spoken in Belgrade, and my audiences have been very appreciative of me. I have not encountered any hostility at all from the Orthodox Christian world here, and therefore I believe that my message, a message of Islam conveyed from me through this book, is more likely to be received positively by the Orthodox Christian world, if they receive it positively, and if they develop a more positive attitude towards the Quran and towards Prophet Muhammad, Allah's blessings be upon him. This is bound to impact on the Muslim consciousness in the Balkans, and eventually they will have to reciprocate.
Here on Balkans, historically, are rather complicated relations between Muslims and Christians. I mean, both the earliest Turkish occupation and in the nearest history, relations with Bosnia or Kosovo. Do you believe that understanding of Quran can help to find the solution of these problems?
Yes, all things are possible with the truth. We must not hesitate to call a spade a spade. And I have not hesitated to do that. And because I have pointed out that the Ottoman Empire acted in a manner which is in conflict with the Quran. For example, in taking the cathedral Hagia Sophia and converting it into a masjid, I have spoken plainly and clearly and boldly, and have declared that this was a shameful thing to do, a disgraceful thing to do, a manifestly sinful thing to do. It is in conflict with the Quran. And and the cathedral, the Hagia Sophia Cathedral, must be returned to the Orthodox Christians, and returned with an apology for what happened. When you stand up firmly with the truth, to call a spade, then you have a chance for successfully overcoming all the bloodshed and all the bitterness and all the sufferings of the last 600 years in the Balkans. And you can see, I am a scholar of Islam. And look on how I've been received here in Belgrade. You can see. The Ottomans ruled over Belgrade for 400 years. 400 years. Before Belgrade was liberated. So there must be a lot of bitterness in the hearts of the people of this region. For Islam, yes, and understandably so. And yet look at how I have been received. There you are, this is the proof that it is possible to overcome the 6 centuries of bitterness and hatred and achieve a miraculous reconciliation and friendship and eventual alliance between our two peoples.
What do you think about the events in the Arabic world, and do you believe that a peaceful solution can be found?
Jerusalem is at the heart of all the upheavals in the Arab world. And what President Trump has just done has helped to define the line which separates one side from the other. It's no longer a Sunni-Shia conflict. No. It's a conflict between those who remain faithful to the truth, which Jerusalem symbolizes, and those who betray that truth with a mountain of lies and oppression and deception. On this side of the fence, on this side of the line, an alliance will now come into being, which will be an alliance of Muslims and Orthodox Christians. On that side of the fence, it's the alliance of those who are oppressors. This is the defining moment that we can now look to the future to see how will these events unfold now in the Middle East, in the Arab world. That is no longer a question of Sunni versus Shia. No. It's a question of Jerusalem as the central actor in the end of history, of those who stand for the truth against those who betray the truth.
What do you think about events in Syria, and also what do you think about Russian action in this country?
I have said that, excuse me, I have said that had Russia not intervened in Syria courageously, with magnificent courage, because the Russian intervention could have provoked nuclear war, yes. And yet the Russian people supported their leadership. And the Russian intervention has saved Syria from becoming another Libya. For this we have to commend Russia. We have to thank Allah, the one God, that the Russians intervened when they did and how they did. Otherwise Syria would have become another Libya. Secondly, had the Russians not intervened, I said that the Christians of Syria would have been slaughtered. So it would have been a second Armenia. The Armenian genocide was perpetrated to drive an everlasting wedge which will prevent Orthodox Christians and Muslims of ever being friends again. That's what the Armenian genocide was meant to do. A Syrian genocide would have put the nail into the coffin. Finally, it's impossible for Muslims and Orthodox Christians to ever become friends and allies. But because of the Russian intervention, the Christians of Syria were saved from slaughter. Finally, had Russia not intervened, you would have had an ISIS government in Syria, a bogus caliphate in Syria. And many Muslims would have been deceived and misguided into believing that the caliphate has been restored. No. This is a caliphate which has come with Santa Claus from the North Pole, not a real caliphate. That's what they have done in building and creating ISIS, and in providing the weapons and providing the money to wage that bogus jihad. And thanks to Russia, that was defeated.
It is said now, both in Russia and here in Serbia and in Western media, that Russia has returned to the Middle East, in Syria, of course, and also it's spoken about contacts with Iran and so. How do you think this Russian influence in the Middle East, is it a positive or negative thing?
Already it is as plain as daylight that the Russian intervention in Syria has succeeded. It was an intervention which had courage in it and also wisdom in it. And the whole world of people who still have common sense would recognize that Russia should be praised for their intervention. But those who took weapons from Santa Claus and took US dollars from Santa Claus to wage their bogus jihad in Syria, they will never accept it. They are licking their wounds now, but they have hatred in their hearts that they've been defeated. And our message to them, if you come again, you'll be defeated again.
Before our interview, you mentioned that the Black Sea is mentioned in Quran, and we were speaking about the Crimea. Could you please explain it for our Crimean audience?
Yes, I want the people of Crimea to know that because Crimea is located, not just located in the Black Sea, but that Crimea commands the Black Sea. Whosoever controls Crimea commands the Black Sea. That the Black Sea is in the Quran, and therefore Crimea is in the Quran because the Black Sea is in the Quran. The Quran has a chapter entitled the chapter of the cave, or Surah Al-Kahf, and in that chapter there is the story of a great traveler He is called Zulkarnain, meaning the one who impacts on two ages or two peoples or two generations. So this is a story which impacts on two ages, the one which passed and the one which is to come. And in this travels of Zulkarnain, he is someone who has faith in the one God, and he has been bestowed with power. So when power rests on the foundations of faith, how will power be used? He travels in the direction of the setting of the sun, and he comes across a body of water which is dark and murky. And our commentators identify that body of water as the Black Sea. And there at that Black Sea, the Lord God asks him, how are you going to use your power with the people who live there? And he said, those who are wicked in their conduct, those who are oppressors, I will punish them. I will punish them. I will use the power that I have, which rests on the foundations of faith, to punish the wicked, to punish the unjust, to punish the oppressors. And when they return to you, you will also punish them. And I will reward and treat nicely those who have faith and whose conduct is righteous. Then he traveled in the opposite direction, which took him to the Caspian Sea. And there he met another people. And then he traveled in the third direction, which took him to Gog and Magog. And Gog and Magog, like Zulkarnain, have power, indestructible power. Only the Lord God can destroy them. But they use their power to oppress. They use their power wickedly, to corrupt, to destroy. So they are people without faith, Gog and Magog. When they are released, then of course the world will be a world in which power will be used to oppress. That's the world today. That's the world today, excuse me. Zulkarnain built a barrier with blocks of iron and coated it with copper and prevented Gog and Magog from being able to come out. And so they were contained in the language of a game called chess. We say they were checkmated. They were rendered, they could not harm anyone. And so they remained safe. The people are now safe. And Zulkarnain said that what I have done is because of the kindness of the Lord God. But one day he's going to bring down that barrier. And these people are going to be released, Gog and Magog. When they are released, then the people from a certain town which was destroyed and who were expelled and banned from returning to that town by the Lord God will be brought back to that town. The town is Jerusalem. So when the Jews are brought back to Jerusalem, those who bring them back are Gog and Magog. Yes. So now we have Zulkarnain, which means two ages. The first age is one in which he contained them by building a barrier with blocks of iron and copper. What's going to happen the second time around? When will the second age come? Answer? We have to look to train our eyes onto the Black Sea. When we see in the region of the Black Sea power emerging on the foundations of faith in the region of the Black Sea, we know that this is the second of the two ages, Karnain, two ages. And power is now going to be used in the region of the Black Sea to punish the oppressor, to punish those who are unjust in conduct, those who are wicked. It is as plain as daylight that power has now returned in the region of the Black Sea, which rests on the foundations of faith.
You know that your opinion about the Islamic world, about Russia, about the West, can be not welcome in the West, of course, and in some maybe Islamic countries. What do you think about that?
The prophets of the One God have set an example for us that the truth must be proclaimed without regard for consequences. We have to follow in the footsteps of the prophets of the One God. And what I do is I proclaim the truth without regard for consequences. And I pray that the Lord God might protect me.
Thank you very much and good luck to you in your work.
You're welcome.